The well of the abyss opens. In other words, the gates of hell open up. The gates of hell are opening. The hitherto regional conflicts, disputes, conflicts, and wars will evolve and become global. Hades opens its gates. The planet is preparing for the coming nuclear conflict. Repeated geomilitary signs and extremely strong geo-war indications of terrestrial Armageddon are multiplying in numbers, as well as rates of growth and geographic spread. The global war fever is now rising exponentially as well as congestively. After Ukraine, Africa, and more than 50 wars currently taking place at the global level, whether civil or conventional, came and added the geo-war icing to the pre-war Armageddon cake, the Middle East now. The many clear, intensifying, and pervasive signs that global conflict is approaching are timidly and partially accepted by some, while for others they are incontrovertible, expected, and obvious evidence. For the rest, or that is, for the vast majority of the world, nothing is going on or happening. They didn't understand anything, and they themselves are carelessly prepared for the December New Year's holidays. The stark reality in a single sentence: key leaders and global players around the world have already given strict orders to clean, polish, and dust their nuclear weapons, dust them off, and the ballistic missile silos which they will then use. Either they want this themselves or they don't want it, to mutual destruction. The enlightened lodges of darkness continue to implement their decades-long plan of rapid global depopulation. This horrible, irrevocable plan of theirs envisages, among other things, a World War III with the use of nukes, so that the demon humanoids of the Great Reset will have much better results. About this coming earthly Armageddon, dozens of world leaders as well as top government officials have already spoken from time to time. For example, former and re-candidate of US President Donald Trump on the private social media platform he founded, Truth Social, on Catholic Easter Sunday, April 9, 2023, wrote, "World War III, yes, that's simple, and it's that clear." Also, the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, has mentioned, among others, the following: Zelensky begs NATO to speed up World War III. Russia can strike with nuclear and conventional weapons. The delivery of long-range missiles ranged to psychotics of Kiev will hasten World War III. The U.S. aims to humiliate Russia, and if the U.S. succeeds in its nefarious purposes, then nuclear dystopia is coming. The horsemen of the apocalypse have begun, Medvedev said. In the material realm, geostrategic preparations for the Great General War have already begun and are progressing incrementally. Indicatively, the writer says, I record some of these pre-war preparations. Since March 11, 2011, Syria has been on fire with Arab Spring. Russia has regularly deployed Russian nuclear weapons in Belarus as well. Top U.S. officials continue to discuss bringing Taiwan under the U.S. nuclear umbrella, directly provoking nuclear China. Kosovo remains the horological dustbin of Europe. And then when the internationals decide to set fire to the Balkans, it remains only for them to throw it a little flame in the region, since the relations between Serbia and Kosovo are permanently, submissively, and artificially pro-war. Indeed, in recent years, America has been giving a global pre-war recital that has no historic precedent. Americans continue to move, withdraw, and deploy troops everywhere. Also, U.S. military is building a brand new base in northern Syria, and due to national security concerns, dozens of special satellite phones for emergency communications have already been given to members of the U.S. Congress. Major war preparations are taking place by NATO USA in the Baltic as well. Already in the area are 3 aircraft carriers, 200 warplanes, and 54 F-35 aircraft, B-61 and 12 nuclear bombs of the U.S.-NATO alliance, an airlift to transport nuclear bombs to Britain from America has already been established and is operating, as well as regular air naval navigation systems. Eastern Europe is also in preparations for war as the Allies prepare for the end of Zelensky and the impending collapse of Ukraine. And that a few days ago, the Americans simulated a nuclear first strike attack on Moscow and St. Petersburg, targeting Russia intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBM launched silos. The American magazine Newsweek wrote, the United States decided to simulate nuclear strikes on Moscow and St. Petersburg with these weapons and predict the results. That is, count the number of victims among the inhabitants of the area. And against all these bellicose moves by the West, the collective West, Russia responded and successfully launched a Bulava intercontinental ballistic missile from a new nuclear submarine on November 5th, 2023. I didn't even know about this. This is the first time I'm hearing of this. The Bulava missile is designed to carry up to 6 nuclear warheads and was launched from an underwater position from the submarine. Emperor Alexander III is the White Sea of Russia, in the White Sea of Russia, and hit a target thousands of kilometers away on the Kamchatka Peninsula in the Russian Far East. At the same time, there is an overconcentration of Russian warships in the Eastern Mediterranean. There are over 13 Russian warships and 3 cruise missile submarines. For example, Russian nuclear submarines are deployed both around the US and the Arctic region, from where they occasionally conduct simulated nuclear missile launches towards the US. In total, about 580 nuclear warheads are currently in combat readiness on Russian submarines, a force of total strength enough to destroy 3 times a state the size of the US. During the same period, Russian MiG-31 fighter jets equipped with hypersonic missiles carrying nuclear warheads were spotted patrolling near Alaska. That we did hear about. Now, meanwhile, America is moving fast with a plan and continues relentlessly to take geo-war positions, geographic hubs, and points in a layout of a coming global conflict. Already, the U.S. has deployed 8 aircraft carriers, along with their escort units, which are currently their total available units. The Americans have deployed their 8 available aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean, the Baltic, the South China Sea, the Pacific Ocean and Taiwan. American experts note that they have many years to see 8 of the total 11 U.S. aircraft carriers at sea. The 3 remaining U.S. aircraft carriers are still in the navigable waters and are the ones in need of repair. This U.S. Navy naval hyper-readiness shows that Washington is either preparing something, or waiting for something, or both. The total of 8 deployed U.S. operational aircraft carriers, which carry a total of about 800 fighter jets and helicopters, marks the largest U.S. naval military deployment since 1962 and the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the planet was one step away from nuclear holocaust. In one sentence, this is a colossal naval and all-out confrontation between the U.S. and Russia. At the same time, and by another coincidence, there's also a lot of overmobility on the part of China. About 4 months ago, China implemented Scenario Z, which clearly shows that China is also preparing for a world war. Scenario Z involves a conflict of strategic wills that then escalates into all-out war. Simulations of an armed conflict show that Beijing is also preparing for general war. And this Scenario Z simulated a war with the China Sea, where the Chinese Navy is under massive attack by missiles and torpedoes raining down from all directions. Each of the 50 Chinese destroyers is attacked, quote-unquote, in the simulation by 11 missiles and 3 torpedoes from a rival Blue Alliance, is published by China's prestigious academic journal, Chinese Journal of Ship Research. And yes, this may sound like a science fiction scenario to some, but there is also the tangible and harsh reality. Chinese President Xi Jinping said, "Building a strong navy has never been as urgent a task as it is today." Beijing has been relentlessly and comprehensively strengthening its armed forces, and the Chinese military is now the world's largest in manpower. Also, China's Navy outnumbers the US and Russian navies, while the United States fleet continues to shrink, and Washington currently has 297 warships. China has 355 warships and aims to reach 460 by the year 2030 and is already building its third aircraft carrier. But NATO is also preparing for a global conflict. All the evidence, the reports, the related movements, and the unprecedented decisions at the highest level show that NATO also sees a new world order. Also, internationalist professors and specialized scientists around the world are warning the danger of a new world war is more visible than ever. And not to wander off, we're not without purpose, the decisions at the NATO summit in Vilnius, Lithuania, on July 11, 2023, officially underline and show that the planet has entered a new Cold War period. According to the communiqué of the summit, as well as the fundamental decisions taken in the operational planning of NATO in Lithuania, it's revealed, officially sealed, that the planet is close to the well of hell. In Lithuania, the collective West launched the reinforcement of the Alliance Deterrence and Defense Order with 3 new special operations spatial plans, which will be supported by at least 300,000 troops on high readiness. As explicitly written in Vilnius, the central goal of NATO is to deal with the 2 main threats to our alliance, Russia and terrorism. The unprecedented fire decisions of NATO in Vilnius smell a lot of gunpowder and a lot of radioactive waste, while at the same time they are raising the NATO confrontation with Russia and China. The Vilnius summit was also attended by the leaders of Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and South Korea, who declared that security is not regional but global, thus paving the way for a global NATO. In the communiqué of the Synod, it was written, "Conflict, fragility, and instability in Africa and the Middle East directly affect our security and the security of our partners. The stated ambitions and coercive policies of the People's Republic of China, PRC, challenge our interests, security, and values. NATO also calls, in particular, the DPRK, that's North Korea, to act responsibly and refrain from providing any lethal assistance to Russia. Therefore, in order not to leave any questions or gaps in information, the collective West announces both to Russia and China, and in addition to Iran and North Korea, countries that are also named as adversaries in the lengthy communiqué, that, quote, the alliance has the capabilities and determination to impose costs on the adversary that would be unacceptable and would far exceed the benefits any adversary could hope for, end quote. And to make what was delivered at the NATO summit in Lithuania more detailed, clear, and understandable, the collective West emphasizes in every direction and to every international player that NATO will take all necessary measures to ensure the credibility, effectiveness, and security of the nuclear deterrent mission. Whereas in Vilnius, the NATO members directly and explicitly threaten nuclear Armageddon, stressing verbatim that there are always conditions under which NATO may have to use nuclear weapons, even if these possibilities are extremely remote. I like superlatives, exponents, and double underlining that extremely remote. In conclusion, and in order not to lose the real entire global picture and developments, things are very simple. We are already in the Third World War. The plans, preparations, movements, and war behaviors and geostrategic actions of the leading states confirm this fact. Transnational things are moving fast, and the gates of hell are already half open. Tick-tock. This is from Elias Kalioras, PhD, international professor and author, former member of Parliament of Theotida. I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.